Hi, Goil.
Okay.
So we're going to start off with Goil just giving a brief overview of some of his work so you can understand while we discuss his career and what he's doing now, where he's coming from.
Okay, it's going to be super fast. Don't fall asleep. I'm watching. So we are AMMOR Architecture. We're both, so that's my partner Tom, and our last names are really long, so we both got 1 or 3 letters of our names for the firm's name, so it's AMMOR from us. And we're both registered architects and interior designers. And we really think this is a part of our selling point, something very important to us, that we're both architects, multidisciplinary. We also think that we want design to be thoughtful design to be accessible, and which is why we don't have a serious picture.
Although you run a serious business.
Yes, we do.
Okay, good.
So we're small, but everybody's a family. The advice to the student graduating is to just kind of like get yourself out there and recognize what you have at the school and what you have. I think my mic is falling. And kind of like use your resources. The strange way that I got out, and it doesn't have to be to a completely different field, is I went on a TV show on Bravo, and this is how I got out. I was one of the contestants. Because you never know who you're going to meet there and how they'll change your life.
Fancy that. I was a judge. I wasn't a contestant.
She's the one with the heart. Like when you watch the show, there's like a heart. And that's me in the back, disgruntled, holding a level. Just kidding. They want us to look serious. So I just kind of like put what I know, what my education has taught me to the test. I made new friends, and basically what I did was I just kind of show up and try to write my own story and make good connections to people, and I try new things, keep my eye peeled for opportunities. So I've been on Trading Spaces. I won a thing on HGTV, and my work registers both in the design industry, like all those fancy magazines, but also, in the regular, popular, rags. So here are some of my projects today, just a mixed bunch, just to give you an overall, range. And then I just want to focus on one project so that you can see how the kind of stuff that you do in school can relate back to, the real life. This project is, I call it Downton Abbey. The building is called the Abbey in New York.
And it's downtown.
And it's downtown. So I couldn't refuse that. But it was a parish house. It's historical landmark. A developer took it over and subdivided it into apartment buildings. And when they did it, they just took the typical developer diagram and just kind of like, I'm going to put a floor every 8 feet or what have you. So what you ended up with inside that apartment, inside those windows, are floors and windows that doesn't line up and things like that. So when we first went in, it looks kind of like this. As you can see, the top right pictures, the windows are really high. That's the only windows they have, and they cannot look out. And it's a series of faux pas, like the restroom near the entry, a lot of like landings, and basically it looks like this in the plan. But if you look on the upper level plan, that red area basically are all under pitch, so no one can access that. So like in the picture, you can see like they have like those banker's box, but those are areas they calculated as like how big the apartment is. So what we thought was, okay, so we went into it looking at it as architects that we are, to kind of like try to reorganize the volume. So we thought that the bathroom, is in a weird place, circulation is weird. We lifted that volume up, like that red portion would be the new bathroom, and and so it would be kind of like this in volume and let in, we thought that it would let in light, and it did. So this is the before, and we clear it out, so the ceiling of the before that you see, above it is the bathroom. We moved it right behind us in that picture, kind of like back there. What else? So, we are like you. We work in study models. We found out that if we put seating by the pitch, you get a little bit more space. Just because, when you're sitting down, you're not that tall. Just like the basic things, and we're moving in toward the interior design kind of like thinking territory that is important for architects to have and learn. AXO, just to let you know that we're cool. We do material palettes. I think oftentimes in schools, in universities, that part is skipped. It's important not to skip, because when we look at the palette, we don't want every room to be completely different. We want the whole house to be one animal, and with selective materials. The interior elements in this case, because when we ripped the project open, we see, we found a lot of beautiful steelwork that we want to keep. So that becomes our theme in selecting furniture. So this is how interior and architecture furnishing can relate. This is what it looks like from the bridge looking down. Oh, and we also designed the carpet. And the other thing we solved was the tall window. We moved the powder room in that corner there, and it needed plumbing. There's a certain rise and run of those things needs to have. So we made a platform for the bathroom, but also to allow people to look out the window and made the space look bigger. And then we created the office to be kind of also a guest sort of area where we added like a daybed. This is the view looking at the entry. We added the stairs, and we kept everything really simple. We just kind of like went with the beautiful architecture that we saw. And it's coming to an end. Oh, okay, so this is upstairs. Before, it used to be, looks like this. When we ripped it out, we conceived of a new look for the bedroom. And all these beautiful exposed steel. We also did the outside. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
No one's asleep.
And then I think we just have some pictures that will just
Yeah.
run while we're speaking
Yeah.
of some of your projects. Is your mic okay? Are you
Is it
all right?
okay?
It's fine.
Okay. I felt like it was like falling.
It's not falling.
Okay.
It's all right. It's okay.
It's the fear that I have, a fear of falling.
Okay, Goil. So we're not going to talk about that. You have such an interesting background, so I want to step back from this. You were born in Thailand.
Yes.
How did you end up here? What's that path?
So my family sent me to school when I was 12 years old. I'm 46 now, but you can't tell by that. So I came a really long time ago.
You went to school in Connecticut, far away.
Yeah.
Your family's not here.
By myself, yeah.
And
I
so-
didn't know a word of English when I first started.
Yeah,
and now you can't shut me up.
Actually, that's kind of a problem sometimes. But I think because we were speaking about how the friendships that Goil formed in school when he was 12 years old were so important because his family was so far away. And there are many international students here at SCAD, and I think it's something that's very relevant because those friendships then really carried you through in your path for what you did. So.
Yeah, and this is something that Margaret, when she looked at my CV, realized, as an amazing therapist, probably. She was like, every path that you did, basically you followed friends. Because I didn't have family, so those people become my friends.
Yeah, so you ended up, you went to undergrad, you went to Yale Architecture School. What was it, actually, when did you know you wanted to be an architect? When you were 12 years old or younger?
So for me, architecture school, if you don't label this thing as an architect thing, I liked everything that the school has to offer. I like everything that I needed to do to get through architecture school. I love making models. I love architectural problems. I can solve like spatial kind of like, situations. I love everything about it. I love the friendship. I love the camaraderie. I love the studio environment. So it's those ingredients that when I found, I kind of showed up at a pre-college program at Cornell, and I really loved it. And so that's how I got into architecture. Yeah.
What was it like your senior year? So there are seniors, I'm sure, in the audience who are about to graduate. What did you know where you wanted to go? Like, what did you start doing senior year?
So
were you prepared, or were you a little panicked?
I think I'm sensing the same thing. I went to a class, and I'm sensing the same thing that I felt before. But I think the most important thing is to keep calm and really look at what is about to come, as not just looking for a job, but really consider it as a career move. Like that's the one most important information that Bob Stern told me is that, listen, if you're looking for a job, you're doing the wrong thing. You got to be looking for a place you fit, for a career, right? So, so I know how that feels, and I think you need to just kind of like step back. And the one thing that I did in fifth year at Carnegie Mellon was, by accident, was kind of approaching and talking to one of my professors who came from a big corporate job. She was a principal at one of the big firms, in San Francisco. And so she kind of gave me the blueprint that I didn't, that I didn't have. And she kind of like helped me, introduce
like your
me.
resume and your cover letter. And
yeah.
And you weren't, because you didn't really know how to do that, you needed some help with that.
Yeah, I mean, but basically I was much more clueless than you are, because I had to go to the library and look at all the magazines that I liked, and I posted notes all of the projects that I like, and then I researched who the authors were, and I realized that they were the same people that I like, and then I made
designers of them?
The designers, yeah. And then I went to her with the list, and she's like, okay, so some of these people I know, some I don't, but since they operated in the same professional arena in San Francisco, she can write a kind of recommendation letter to go with my cover letter. And she gave me a strategy. She's like, Goil, just don't ask for a job. Just go like, make sure that, you tell them when you're going to be in San Francisco. So for example, the letter reads kind of like, in 2 weeks, I'll be in San Francisco. I would love an opportunity to meet with you just for coffee, 30 minutes or what have you. And coffee is easy. People drink coffee all the time in this culture, in the architecture world. And so, they're like, oh, coffee. So, oh, I love coffee. and so, that's how I kind of got myself in. Give them a deadline, follow up, write thank you letters, be responsible, in that terms. And then, don't pressure them. Just like, I know that you're not hiring, but if it's possible, I'm in the area. I love your work, and this is the work that I love. Be specific, and I would love to talk to you more about your work, and perhaps where my strength can fit in, within this context. And even if they don't know, they can't give you a job. They could be a professional contacts. You know what I mean?
Or refer you, because you actually didn't work in San Francisco, did you?
No.
No. So how did you end up in D.C.?
It's like this is the part that Margaret figured out about me. I came when I was young, so I rely on friendship. My best friend worked in D.C., so she's like, "That's an opening, Goil." I was like, "Okay, I'm coming." I'm outside.
That'll do it. I thought it was interesting when we were talking about DC, and you said that at that point there was sort of upper executive level, and then a lot of junior people, interns who were doing a tremendous amount of work. And you worked on some really cool projects.
Yeah, we did. I mean, so the thing with the industry, I mean, we were lucky because, well, other people were not. But like in the 80s, apparently there was a downturn in the market. So there's a midsection that was missing. So when, DC was a small firm, we did, the projects were all embassies, which is amazing for a person from another culture to kind of be able to kind of like use that skill of translation. And, So it was just the top and then the bottom. And so, like, since there are like 50 of us, there's only 3 of them.
You did all the work.
Yeah, we did the work, and they had to give us responsibility, and it was a great learning experience. And then I made, amazing friends.
And then that prepared you to go work for Bob Stern's office
Absolutely.
in New York. What was that interview process like? Did you interview with Bob Stern?
Well, so Bob was my teacher.
Oh.
He was the dean.
He was the dean at Yale.
I was his
okay.
first group. I was his first batch of mishap students, but we showed up.
So he saw promise, and you went to work with him
Yeah.
in New York. It's interesting because I know so many architects who've opened their own firms after working at Bob Stern's office, and there has to be something there where there must be defining qualities in that office that help prepare you. I think he's a marvelous mentor. No?
He's a great mentor.
He's also demanding.
He's very demanding, and he's good at many things. He writes history books. He writes all the New York series. He's like and he's just super. He's like a Wikipedia. You don't have to Google anything. He'll tell you. But except that he'll yell at you because you haven't read it. But he's also amazing at plans. He has seen all these plans, and he used his amazing research ability and kind of passed that on to us. So when we were designing, we have to learn how to do precedent studies, these things. I don't know if you guys do that, but to him, it's useless if the buildings we're researching are not apples to apples. So we have to make sure they're all in the same scale, about the same size, because that gets you into the mode of scale of a building really like right away. And so we're learning, like partially he's a historian, so we're learning in that mode, which is so amazing.
And important to what you do. So you were an associate there for 6 years, from when you started there to when you left. How did your role and responsibilities change?
So I'm one of those. So when you hire Goil, you get Goil. It's difficult for me to change mode, and
is that a good thing?
It's a good thing and a bad thing,
okay.
But it's just the way that it is. So I think at the time I was there, I was the only design associates, because in order to move up, you have to be a manager. You have to deal with money. But I was good. I'm fast on my foot. I'm a maker. I get my hands dirty. The single redeeming quality that I have that Bob saw in me is that I get my hands dirty. I'm not afraid to jump in, and so I do a lot of his front end work, like designing everything. Every time he has competitions, with his fancy architect friends, I'm leading the team. No money, but yes, like I didn't deal with like the accounting parts, but
you were there for all the creativity.
Yeah,
and doing the work.
It's what I know, is what I was good at, and he just allowed me to do that.
So you, right after Bob Stern, that's when you did top design?
Yes, that's when I met Margaret.
That's great. But that's also when you realized that there was an interior design aspect to your life that you hadn't really focused on before.
Absolutely. When I applied, it was pitched as an interior design show,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought I was doing interior design because I was cladding the interior of these public buildings that I was designing, and that's how I sold myself. But then, I didn't know that, I had to learn about comfort, style, and other things.
You actually didn't know what you were doing.
Yes.
On the show, but you learned a lot, and there were only 2 architects. It was this crazy show, and I don't recommend that anybody do reality TV to get your job. It worked for you, but not necessarily.
But I'm
for
good on
others.
my foot, and I'm willing to learn. I think when I was there, the only thing I can remember, I kept repeating to myself that I'm still learning, and that like other people, I wasn't a typical Bravo kind of like person.
No, and well, you weren't
Yeah.
you weren't crazy, and
Yeah.
you didn't drink. But that Goil was incredibly creative, and he would come up with these marvelous solutions to things, but my problem was none of them were practical. And so, to make a guest bed for something, he said, oh, and there's a bed, and it slides into the wall. And I'm like, but Goil, what's happening in the room on the other side? And he hadn't thought about those things. But it was so interesting because at the time I didn't know that you really didn't have an interior design background, and I love the fact that this crazy show then made you much more focused on it. And so after Top Design is when you took your boards. That's when you got licensed? What was the timing on that?
Sometimes after that, yeah.
And then you opened your own firm with Tom?
Yes.
And how did you know you were ready?
We don't know. We still don't know.
Were you ready? Maybe not.
Well, see, the thing is, we've been so trained that I know that if the opportunity comes, we are ready. Because we have done every single parts of the business. But, it takes more than just the skill. It takes luck. It takes, you know what I mean? So we don't know if clients will come, how we can find our clients.
Did you have any clients when you went off on your own?
Very few, and we start off small, and then, So.
Was your firm in your apartment?
Initially.
Yeah. So to start a firm, you also need to think about staffing and accounting and bookkeeping.
Yes.
And it's interesting, so many designers and architects who I know are so creative, and they have the clients and they're doing great work, but they have a huge problem with billing and with accounting because it's not necessarily something that you're learning. And so it's really important to find a mentor, to get good advice. I've had people call me and say, who can I talk to? And so, Jamie Drake is a marvelous example of a designer who just sent his bookkeeper over to this young guy that I met because he was ready to close his office. And it was only because he didn't really understand the billing and getting everything up front. So it's hugely complicated to take on to opening your own firm, but it's also really rewarding because you have the freedom. What was it like when you and Tom started out?
In terms of billing?
And was it frightening? Was it gratifying? How long did it take you to get going? Because you already had, you had Top Design, you got licensed, and then you started doing these other things, like with Whoopi Goldberg and with well-known people, but you also you needed to do regular projects. Everything wasn't
Yeah,
fancy.
Absolutely. I don't think we stopped to think because there's a lot going on. So we were excited that we are able to start. A lot of our peers, I'm 46 now, and I feel like a lot of peers have difficulty starting because they don't know where to begin. And so we were grateful that we were able to start something, and so we take every opportunity we get to the fullest, from the smallest to the biggest.
Tom is also your life partner. Do you think is it a good idea to be business partners with your life partner?
So the problem with me is I don't know it any other way. We've been together for 20 years. So we met when we were in school, and we just kind of went along, So I don't know, but I think it's pretty good. I know for a fact that I am horrible at certain things, and he's horrible at other things, And being me, I can access certain things that he cannot access, and being him, he can access a lot of different areas that I can't enter. So
you're yin and
we're a
yang.
good team.
You're
We're a
very
good
out
team.
there. He's very quiet.
Right. Right. If a project is the client's going to be really pissed today, guess who will show up on the job site? That's me. Just in case you didn't get that. But there's some certain things where Tom, you got to go to this. I can't deal with this. He wears a suit much better than I can.
So you balance each
Yeah.
other. Okay. You have done lots of TV, and your work has been widely published. How much of your success has been driven by that, do you think?
I think a lot. It just gives you the visibility and the street cred in some ways. For example, we were in the New York Times article once, and that whole week, the phone call just didn't stop. So, you never know where things are going to come, but you just have to. But publication is really important because it gets you out there. For me, out of anything, it makes me feel like I belong in an industry that otherwise, yeah.
Well, it's given you a much bigger footprint, but also now that magazines and newspapers are changing a lot. I don't think it's as easy to be
Yeah,
published. A lot of
absolutely.
magazines have closed. How do you feel about, you just revamped your website, you're on social media. How important is that? And is there somebody on your team who's just focused on doing that?
Yeah, we have, well, the youngest person in our team does the social media because the person knows how to hashtag, and I just don't know how to begin.
You're being ageist.
Well, but I'm being clueless as well because I'm like, I don't know, and the person just, it's like second nature to them because they
Yeah.
grew up with it,
But they understand your brand, so you
Yeah.
trust them to be.
Absolutely. We're a
Your
small,
voice.
tight-knit group,
Do you pay attention to it though?
Yeah,
do
we
you
do.
look at it?
We approve everything.
And how many times have you redone your website since you started?
I think big major, I think this is only the second time. We rebranded from Tug Studio. Oh, so this is the third time.
Oh, and you had a different name of your company.
We first started, so in the beginning it was important for us to be approachable, so we picked Tom and Goil, so we call ourselves Tug, like, Tom's German, Tom und Goil. And now that we're a little bit more grown up, and, like even our logo, we got that font from one of our clients who does fonts and is amazing. And so now we feel grown up.
That's a good client to have, but when we first started talking about doing this, Goil had sent me this email saying that they just redone their website, and it looked terrific, and I'm reading everybody's bio, and then, did you have a picture of a cat or something? Like you had
Oh, no, my
the
dogs.
most ridiculous bio, and I said, okay, SCAD's not gonna invite you if you have a cat picture up there. So he did get it together, but I think there is something about, you can be intensely creative and your mind can be going a mile a minute. But at
Yes.
the end of the day, you are running a business, Goil. And there are times Goil is more business-like than others. But actually,
I'm still learning.
Do you mostly work on referrals? Like, how do you get new clients? If you're not getting published, you're doing something else. Like, what is the best way of getting new clients? Because you're a small firm, and you're up against some really major firms.
We do referrals a lot, and then we have a lot of repeat clients. We have been so lucky about that.
Because you take good care of people. What
Yeah.
about networking? Are you a member of different associations?
More Tom than me. Tom's very much involved with the
Oh,
professional.
that's his part of.
He's like in the Yale Club. He's in the. He's in the Arts Club.
The National Arts Club?
It's the one in Gramercy.
Oh yeah, that's such a
Okay.
beautiful building.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. You should go there though.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm the ugly friend, If I'm invited, maybe I'll come.
What do you feel were your big successes, and were there any sort of missteps in terms of, besides rebranding from Tug to AMMOR?
That's what we were, though, Margaret.
I know, and it was
Okay.
cute. It was cute, but you're 46 and you're running a business, and
I know.
cute is not a word to be in your vocabulary
Absolutely, yeah.
unless it's about a cat. What can we learn from some of the things that you did that, like, what were some real highs? And then was there anything where you said, okay, I learned from that. Maybe I made a mistake in that.
Like in terms of projects, or
Yeah, projects or relationships with people, or like when you worked with Whoopi, you've done a lot of stuff with her that
Yeah.
opened a lot of doors. You did a lot of philanthropic things,
Yeah.
Is it worth doing the philanthropy because then it brings other projects to you?
those things doesn't bring anything. But it's a fulfillment to kind of like help other people, and we really, we're Midwesterner, like at heart, if you will. I went to Carnegie Mellon, Tom's Ohio State, and we truly believe that we want to help. So,
Good. Okay. Well, you can help us now. Let's talk about hiring. When you have a small team, so everybody there is very important. What do you look for when you're hiring? What makes you look at a resume twice? When you're going through things.
So because we're a small firm, we're super selective because you get one wrong person and it really changed the whole dynamics. And so for us right now, we look for referral from somebody we know. So if you send somebody, I would look at that. But if somebody sent an email, a mass email, that directly goes to the
What
trash.
about if they write to you and say they're going to be in New York and are you free for coffee in 2 weeks?
Well, that's depends. If I feel like they have looked at our work, and the
If they've done research.
Exactly, you know what I mean? It's like you got to be able to respond, to communicate, and to have like a real relationship like adults, And the other thing that's important is following up. You need to write thank yous, and you need to be a real person in the world.
What skill sets are you looking for?
I guess for us, we don't expect recent graduates to know everything, but it's the ability to learn and, the ability to be hands-on because we're small. You need to be able to do everything. We don't want any divas. Those are the worst. Because
have you had some divas?
Yeah, and it makes it really difficult to move forward sometimes.
How do you deal with that? When someone's not up to snuff, do you give them a chance to get better?
We just set them aside and try to talk to them.
Is that a Tom thing, or is that a Goil thing?
Yeah, usually just went and hide in the bathroom, and Tom talks to them. No, I'm there. Otherwise, they might cry.
I bet you can be.
I'm a
pretty
softer.
What about sketching? Is it important to be able to sketch? Is it, do you feel that, are there things that you're looking for? Do you feel the students that you're getting know everything they should know? Is there anything that you can give advice in terms of that somebody should keep in mind that maybe isn't top of mind? I've had some architects say to me that they really they admire SCAD students because they're always the best. They draw the best.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Drawing is a plus. We love people who can draw by hand because we're old school.
Yeah.
And
So old school is still okay.
No, but it shows clear thinking.
Yeah.
AutoCAD doesn't, like half of them.
Because
AutoCAD
it's your thought
soulless.
to your hand. It's a direct.
Yeah, and we want to know that you can think, that and from mind to hand, I think is the most direct. With AutoCAD, sometimes there's a layer of like incompetency, or you have to be awesome at CAD in order to communicate. But like, if you're not there yet, it mucks up the viewpoint. I can't see you clearly, but with your hands, I can see you clearly.
Got it. What do you ask when you're interviewing?
Basically, what we look for are people who can present themselves, and just like engage in a conversation. It's much more relaxed in our interview process. We're not like a big corporate firm where they need to check box everything,
And do you look for, are internships really important, or is if somebody's really passionate about travel in the Far East, if they spent their summers traveling, like do you want specific work experience, or is life experience equal to that?
I think that they're both important, but I think for those who have prior experience, they may have a reference, from the same industry that is comparable apples to apples, so we can consider them much more seriously. Rather than, like sometimes students would be like, oh yeah, like my skills are just going to be great with this, but they may not know what is coming. But if, they have worked at another firm, they can understand a little bit more of what's expected or what the day-to-day may be. They ask better questions, they...
When someone is just coming out of school, what is their has what your life was like when you were starting in DC or with Bob Stern, is it really different now? Like what can someone expect the first 3 months of starting at your firm? Will they see clients? Are they in the office? Is it dredge work? Is it fun?
Yeah, you just have to roll with the punches. And from my experience, certain people are great in front of the client, so they may get pushed that direction sooner. But it depends on. Well, my first jobs were like in big firms, so it may not be representative of what my firm does. But at Bob's, for example, different people are pushed different directions based on what they're good at. And the thing is, you have to realize too that, this is real life and there's really no rules, right? You're not sitting there waiting for a permission to do 3 options to show Bob. You just have to be interested and invested in the project and, spend the time thoughtfully to create something, to show him. And that's how, that's how you move forward. I think a lot of young people sometimes, that didn't survive at Bob's for very long were the ones that sit at their desk and wait for instructions. You have to make your own job yours. Like, I was the only design associate, but it's just by luck because that's, I love it and I just, I'm pushing stuff in front of him and,
And trying to do things that he didn't even know he wanted, that he hadn't anticipated.
Yeah, and making options of, like sometimes people only present one option, like this is the final thing. Don't you love it? You can't do that.
Do you usually love it when somebody does that, or you?
I'm just like, no, you can't do that. That's against the rule. There's no rule, but that's the only one rule.
Yeah, do you have rules? Like, are there things that you say, okay, here's a script. This is the way things need to run here? No?
Not so much. I mean, you make your own job, right? You make your own place. Look for openings.
Is it, what happens now when you're out of school? Do people tend to stay in one firm for a few years? Do they move on? What do you feel? What's your sense of what's going on in the market right now?
So it depends. I think, a lot of people who are recently graduating, like the typical script, I think, for architects is to join like a larger firm, with good benefit, like Gensler or RTKL or, SOM. Those are great. But then you end up being specialized. And if you stay there, more than a certain number of years, it makes it harder because you're older to kind of like adapt to to start your own practice. So, but I think what those large firms are great at, especially at Bob Stern, is that when you're there, you're dealing with the top quality consultants that are your professional contacts forever, if you keep in touch. You work with the best engineers, the best lighting designers, the best museum designer, like, you know what I mean? Like, so I think in your first job, you should always think of it in terms of making professional contacts. You may be in the model shop making whatever, but show up at everything, and try to take advantage, of everything they have to offer. Like, meet new people, when they have like special lunches where somebody come to talk, learn new things. You never know where anything's going to lead, Keep your options open and be diligent. You may not get the result right away. Like some of these magazines party, it's difficult at first. You have to show up like, 10 times for people to recognize your face and kind of like, have a dialogue. But, just show up and realize that everybody just, it's just as frightened as you are. Just reach out your hands.
Well, also, if so much of your work is referral-based, people need to know who you are, so if you're out. When you do with the interior design work that you do people shop for you? Am I going to run into you in the D&D building? Are you interested in seeing new things on your own, or do you have time?
Well, D&D, yes. But if, A&D, yes. But probably, like ICFF, I skip every other year. It depends. But I try to stay informed, and I love picking.
ICFF is great for materials.
Yeah, I love picking fabrics. The things that I didn't do in architecture school now I love to do.
And what about continuing education? How do you usually keep up to what you need to do?
So people come and they give you lunches and they talk about their products in the SCAD.
That counts for continuing education?
Yeah.
I thought it wasn't supposed to be promotional.
Well, I don't know, but
apparently not.
I mean,
okay.
it's like a tile company that's talking about tile.
Okay, I believe the idea is actually that it should be keeping you up to date with everything you need to know in terms of cutting edge things.
Absolutely, you need to know. You need to be engaged. You need to love to love it.
You've clearly gotten into the mix of something that I don't know. And how do you stay, like what inspires you? How do you stay fresh with the work that you're doing and on top of being inspired by other people so that you can create inspiring work?
Just you have to live your life, I think, that's the thing, right? So you never know where your inspiration will come. You just have to live it and be engaged. And keep your eye peeled, you never know. So.
Okay, my last question, and then we'll open it up to for your questions. Have you had any mentors? Maybe it's Bob Stern, but was there somebody who gave you an advice that has sort of colored what you've done, or that's really that you've taken on as part of your mission statement, or that you keep in the back of your mind? I remember the editorial director at Hachette, the parent company for Elle Decor, once said to me when I was really upset about some dumb email, you should never put emotion in email. Emails in business are all about the facts. Always keep to the facts. And if you're going to be emotional, then you need to talk to somebody about it, but you don't. Anything that is in an email could appear anywhere else. Mm-hmm. Just always remember that. Stick to the facts, and then you won't be, in my office upset. And it's funny, but I've carried that, for decades now. It was such strong advice, and it still is very much true and relevant today. Is there anything like that that's sort of always there in terms of how you run your business or your life?
Yeah, just imagine the prospect of somebody who came here when they were so young, right? Family's not even here. And it took a lot of people to get to this point. No, just kidding. I'm just so grateful that I have met so many people that mentor me along the way. You know what I mean? Like on the show, for example, I have never done a room before, and all the comments that you gave us, and even afterward, it changed the trajectory of my career completely. You know what I mean? So you are one of those voices, but there's been many. Bob Stern's one of them. So.
Well, I think also you're very open. You're open to criticism and to ideas, and you don't take. You learn from it, but you let the criticism roll off of you. It's not like a brick wall. Mm-hmm. You can move on. And there's a lot of criticism in architecture. There's a lot of criticism in school. There's criticism when you're, starting out in a firm. You were lucky that Bob Stern didn't yell at you, because Mr. Stern can be very stern. And so
he expects the best,
yeah,
and he just gets into it, And as a person who loves architecture as much as he does, I completely understand.
Yeah, no, well, he's, to have been able to work with him was really a treat for you, and I know that it's informed your work. So congratulations, good luck to you.
Well, watching you.